Imagine just for a second that your physical life here on Earth has ended.
Right.
You're lying in a hospital bed or, maybe you're in an accident. But instead of the room fading to black or feeling some sudden plunge into nothingness, you feel completely weightless.
Like there's no panic.
Exactly. No panic, no fear. Instead, you're zooming through this spatial tunnel. You're watching these incredibly vivid, neon-colored lines rushing backward past you like you've just hit warp speed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And up ahead, in the distance, you spot this radiant, massive rainbow bridge. You swoon, you black out one more time, and then you wake up.
Hmm.
There's celestial music playing all around you. You open your eyes, and you find yourself resting in the arms of a female immortal, completely safe, while a massive crowd of people just cheers your arrival.
It's such a profoundly deliberate image to start with,
It really is.
because what we're looking at is a transition fundamentally devoid of trauma. It replaces, the ultimate human anxiety, the fear of a painful unknown death, with the ultimate sensory welcome. You're not dying. You're being birthed into something else entirely.
And that something else is the journey into what author Suofeng calls the 1,000-year world. Today, we're taking a deep dive into this incredibly detailed source text.
Right, which essentially acts as a hyper-specific blueprint for this afterlife, or, well, maybe a higher dimensional existence.
So our mission for this deep dive is to systematically explore the mechanics, the geography, and the deeply fascinating societal rules of this 1,000-year world.
And just to be clear for everyone listening, our objective here isn't to debate the literal scientific existence of this place out in the cosmos.
Right, right.
Rather, we want to analyze what this highly specific vision tells us about the ultimate concept of a perfected human life.
Yeah, like what happens when you strip away absolutely like everything that makes earthly survival so difficult? What kind of humanity is left over?
Exactly. It's a massive philosophical question.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because before we can talk about the psychology of the people living there, we really have to talk about where this place actually is.
The geography, yeah.
Yeah. And the mechanics of getting there are just wild. The text states that the journey from Earth takes exactly 16 minutes.
Just 16 minutes.
But in those 16 minutes, you're covering about 960 light years. It mentions traveling at something called negative cosmic speed.
Right. Negative cosmic speed.
Now, I'm no astrophysicist, but 960 light years in 16 minutes completely shatters our laws of physics.
Oh, absolutely.
So, are we supposed to take this math literally? Or is this negative cosmic speed just a conceptual tool to tell the listener that we're stepping outside the fabric of our universe?
It's absolutely the latter. Negative cosmic speed isn't about strapping a bigger engine onto a rocket.
Right.
It's a conceptual mechanism for stepping outside of space-time entirely. By instantly discarding the speed of light, which, is the absolute unbreakable speed limit of our physical universe, the text is demanding that you just check your earthly logic at the door.
Like you're moving through a different dimensional layer where distance and gravity are totally irrelevant.
Exactly. And that structural rule-breaking extends right into the physical map of the world itself. The text is very specific here.
The numbers are crazy.
Yeah, the 1,000-year world is exactly 10 times the size of Earth. It features 5 continuous mountain ranges, all around 10,000 meters high.
So taller than Mount Everest.
Right, taller than Everest. And it holds over 8,800 independent peaks, 10 massive rivers, and this vast lake dotted with nearly 100,000 islands.
Okay, so I'm trying to picture this, right? A planet 10 times the size of Earth, covered in 10,000-meter mountains. But it feels like there's a glaring omission in this fantasy cartographer's map.
Let me guess.
Where are the oceans?
Yes. What's fascinating here is precisely what is missing. There are absolutely no oceans.
None.
None. There are no deserts, no wastelands, no barren tundra, no swamps. And we have to ask why.
Well, on Earth, our geography kind of dictates scarcity, right?
Exactly. Oceans and deserts are massive boundaries. They're unlivable spaces that limit human habitation.
They trap us in specific zones.
Right, and force us to fight over the fertile land in between. By completely removing barren landscapes, the 1,000-year world removes the geographical basis for want.
So if the entire planet, all 10 times the size of Earth, is fertile and lush and livable, there's no need for borders.
And without borders, there's no us versus them. Absolute abundance is literally baked into the very bedrock of the planet.
Which means we need to look at how the environment operates above that bedrock. Because, I mean, if there are no oceans to generate massive hurricane systems,
And no barren deserts to create extreme pressure fronts.
right, the climate is just locked in this static state. We are talking about a world with no sun, no day and night cycle, and absolutely no shadows.
It's wild to think about.
The light comes entirely from distant stars, yet it's perfectly bright. The temperature is constant. There is no rain, no snow, no thunder, no lightning.
Nothing violent.
Just this brilliant blue sky with color-changing clouds.
It fundamentally functions like a perfectly calibrated closed-loop terrarium.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, because in a terrarium, the carbon and oxygen cycles are so tight and balanced that nothing violent ever needs to happen to maintain the equilibrium.
Right. The planet doesn't need to drastically redistribute heat or water.
Exactly. There's no dramatic weather.
And when a planet's climate never changes, the biology just completely forgets how to hurry.
Oh, the pace of life.
Yes. The flora sounds beautiful. Giant pine trees, hundreds of meters tall, fragrant trees with canopies the size of football fields, flowers that actively change color and scent.
But the growth rate is
It's staggering.
Yeah.
A single leaf takes 3 Earth years to form.
3 years.
A peach takes 10 years to ripen. Everything, plants and animals, lives 10 times longer than on Earth. Humans live precisely 1,000 years on average.
Right.
But I gotta stop you here because, honestly, this sounds like torture.
Torture.
10 years for a peach. If I lived there, I'd stare at that peach tree every day and just lose my mind waiting for breakfast. I mean, I complain if my coffee takes 3 minutes to brew.
Yeah, that's fair.
How did these people not go completely insane from the boredom of waiting?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to analyze where your impatience comes from in the first place.
Okay, go on.
Urgency is an artifact of scarcity. To understand why patience exists in the 1,000-year world, look at the fauna. There are no carnivores.
No lions or wolves.
Right.
Ugh.
No foxes, no venomous reptiles. There aren't even annoying bugs. No flies, mosquitoes, fleas, bed bugs.
That does sound like paradise.
The absolute peak of cruelty in this entire global food chain is like a bird eating a small bug. That's it.
Wow.
By removing predators and by removing the threat of winter freezing your crops, the environment completely erases the fight-or-flight response.
So you're saying our earthly perception of time is basically just a survival mechanism?
Precisely. We hoard food, we rush to build shelters, we panic about time passing because on Earth, time brings winter.
Right. Time brings aging, disease, starvation.
Exactly. The biological clock ticks loudly because death is always approaching,
Yeah.
but in a terrarium with a constant perfect temperature.
Where you're surrounded by hundreds of thousands of trees.
Yeah. Where that peach takes 10 years to grow, but there is no rush to beat the frost. Your survival isn't on a timer anymore.
So the psychology of anticipation shifts from desperate hunger to, like, serene observation.
You nailed it.
So what does this all mean for society? If the survival instinct, the root of earthly anxiety, is totally removed by this static, gentle environment, how do humans organize themselves?
That's where the demographics come in.
Right. The text notes that the population is capped at under 200 million people. Think about that for a second. 200 million people spread across a planet 10 times the size of Earth.
It is incredibly sparse.
Super sparse.
Yeah.
And as a result, they have no nations, no races, no classes, and no wealth gaps. There's no modern industry and no agriculture.
Because without the need to mass-produce food or build weapons for defense against neighboring nations, the concept of an economy just dissolves. Their entire civilization is essentially organized around leisurely, low-stakes creation. They build roads, boats, and houses, and they raise silkworms to weave this ultra-thin, dyed silk clothing.
It's all just aesthetic maintenance.
That's exactly what it is.
Let's talk about who is actually doing this aesthetic maintenance, because the origin of this population is where my brain completely short-circuited.
Oh, the 3 categories.
Yes. So the text says there are native-born citizens. Then there are humans from Earth who have arrived after completing their spiritual cultivation.
Which, to clarify for the listener, isn't just meditating on a mountain.
Right. It's the grueling process of systematically unlearning all of your earthly attachments and anxieties. But then there is the third category of citizen. The population also includes criminals who have been banished downward from a higher 10,000-year world.
This is such a great detail.
So wait, time out. Criminals. This flawless utopia of colored clouds and giant fragrant trees is serving as a cosmic halfway house.
Pretty much.
What kind of crime could possibly exist in a realm above this one?
It's brilliant because it forces us to realize that perfection is highly relative. To an Earthling, the thousand-year world is the ultimate paradise.
Unimaginable luxury.
But to the inhabitants of the 10,000-year world, it's a downgraded prison. It implies this vast cosmic hierarchy where your physical environment directly correlates to your level of spiritual refinement.
Meaning, if you act out in the higher dimension, your punishment is being sent to a slightly denser, slightly more restricted reality.
Exactly. And you can see how this spiritual refinement manifests in their physical architecture, actually.
Oh yeah, the houses.
Because there's no harsh weather, no blizzards, no hurricanes, and no predators, they just don't need heavy industry. They don't need chainsaws, steel beams, or concrete.
They saw soft wood using ropes made of plant fibers.
Right. Their roofs are made of flexible giant leaves. The walls of their homes are just densely tied red sand willow branches, and their fences are literally just lines of stones and flowers.
Okay, I understand the lack of weather, but what about human nature? I mean, a wall made of willow branches offers zero privacy. It feels completely exposed.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't human nature dictate some desire to lock a door and keep people out?
Well, on Earth, yes, because an earthly house is a fortress against the elements and against intruders who might steal your resources.
True.
But in the thousand-year world, there is no concept of theft because there is infinite abundance. A house here isn't a defensive structure. It's merely a cozy aesthetic boundary.
So it's a visual cue that says, this is my quiet space, rather than a physical barrier that says, keep out.
Perfectly said.
And that lack of defensive hoarding translates directly to their diet, too. They eat a vegetarian diet of fruit, melons, and half-cooked grains, and drink spring water infused with honey.
And remember the wildlife.
Yes, because the population of humans is so incredibly small compared to the size of the planet, the wildlife actually eats 9/10 of all the fruit.
Humans voluntarily let animals eat 90% of the food supply.
It's crazy. On Earth, we pave over habitats to ensure we secure 100% of the yield.
Which brings us to the most complex system of all, really, reproduction.
Right.
To maintain that perfect static equilibrium on the planet, they must strictly manage the population. Since they've eliminated the high mortality rate of Earth?
Because nobody is dying of disease or starvation.
Right, they have to drastically lower the birth rate.
The text notes there is no marriage and no traditional family unit. It operates similarly to a matrilineal society.
Yeah.
Love is spontaneous, mating seasons only happen 3 to 4 times a year, and women only have 1 to 2 children over their entire 1,000-year lifespan.
Think about the profound psychological shift there.
It's massive. On Earth, raising a child is often the defining legacy of a person's life, right? It takes up decades of your most energetic years.
But in this world, parenthood is a tiny, fleeting blip in a millennium of existence.
It radically alters human attachment.
Because children are raised collectively by the women, and the biological father is largely irrelevant to the child's economic survival. The intense claustrophobic pressure of the nuclear family just disappears entirely.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because when you eliminate the nuclear family unit and you eliminate private property, you develop a totally alien legal and moral code.
Oh, the laws.
Yeah, the text says the people are perpetually calm and naturally harmonious. They don't even have a concept of earthly morality.
Because good behavior isn't forced by the threat of police or hell, it's entirely spontaneous.
Exactly. However, they do have 2 great laws. No selfishness and no waste.
Let's examine the specific crimes attached to those laws, because what a utopia considers illegal tells you everything about its values.
Oh, the crimes are wild. Let's say you fall in love.
Okay.
If you try to exclusively possess a romantic partner and restrict their freedom to love others, that is considered a massive crime under the law of no selfishness.
This raises an important question, and it's perhaps the most challenging philosophical concept in the text.
I agree.
On Earth, monogamy and romantic exclusivity are culturally framed as the ultimate expressions of commitment, virtue, and true love.
Right.
But this text frames earthly romance, the desire to claim exclusive ownership over someone's affection and body, as an oppressive, selfish act. And we have to ask why.
Okay, why?
It's because, historically on Earth, marriage originated as an economic survival contract. You needed a dedicated partner to pool resources, maintain property, and protect vulnerable offspring in a really harsh environment.
So you're saying that our deepest, most poetic, romantic ideals are fundamentally just dressed-up survival strategies?
From the perspective of the thousand-year world, yes.
Wow.
In a realm with no scarcity, No property to inherit, no predators, and practically no childcare burden. Claiming ownership over another person's affection serves no practical purpose. It becomes nothing more than arbitrary restriction of their freedom out of jealousy.
That is a massive paradigm shift, to realize that jealousy isn't an inherent human emotion, but a byproduct of economic scarcity. And speaking of scarcity, the crime for waste is just as severe. If you take a bite out of one of those peaches that took 10 years to ripen,
The 10-year peach?
yeah, and you throw the rest of it on the ground, that is the ultimate waste, and you will be prosecuted.
Right.
And the punishment system is equally baffling to my earthling brain. If you break these laws, your immediate punishment is being banned from participating in collective labor.
Which sounds great to us.
Seriously, bench me from doing the dishes or mowing the lawn, please. On Earth, getting out of work is the dream. Why is this considered a punishment?
Because you're still viewing labor through the lens of earthly capitalism.
Okay, fair.
On Earth, you do the dishes to maintain hygiene so you don't get sick. You work 40 hours a week to pay for shelter. Labor is coerced by the threat of starvation or homelessness.
Right.
But in the 1,000-year world, labor is not tied to survival. Building a stone path or weaving silk is a collective art project. It's how you socialize, express creativity, and contribute to the beauty of the terrarium. To be banned from labor is to be socially exiled from the act of creation.
So you're just being put in a cosmic timeout.
Essentially, yes.
But if you keep breaking the rules and you prove to be truly irredeemable, there is an ultimate consequence.
The big one.
Upon your death at age 1,000, you are banished back to Earth to suffer another lifetime as a normal human.
Yeah.
I want you, the listener, to really absorb that. Imagine a reality so perfect, so frictionless, that the worst imaginable death penalty is just being sent to live your normal life right now.
It's humbling.
Earth is their version of a maximum security prison.
It reframes our entire existence, doesn't it? If Earth is the punishment dimension, it explains the struggle, the disease, the violence. It's the crucible where flawed souls are sent to either break or refine themselves.
Which brings us to the ultimate end. If Earth is the punishment, what happens to the people who follow the rules? How does life naturally conclude for the citizens of the 1,000-year world?
Well, first we have to establish what doesn't happen.
Right. They experience zero disease. There are no congenital illnesses, no infectious viruses, no diet-related heart conditions, and zero psychological stress from trauma.
Furthermore, there are zero accidents. Without heavy machinery or violent weather, the friction of life is just gone.
So no plane crashes, no car accidents, no shark attacks.
Nobody accidentally falls off a cliff.
And the life stages completely reflect that frictionless existence. A person enters their youth phase at age 100.
100.
And this youth phase lasts until they are over 700 years old.
Wow.
So you get 600 years of flawless youth, zero struggle, absolute health, and literally nothing to worry about.
I have to ask a deeply human question here.
Go for it.
Does it ever get boring? Are we as Earthlings so addicted to the adrenaline of surviving that we wouldn't know what to do with 6 centuries of unbroken peace?
It's a profound point, and the text actually addresses this potential for stagnation by detailing the final phase of their lives.
Okay, what happens at 700? From age 700 until their death at 1,000, the inhabitants transition out of pure leisure and enter a period of intense spiritual cultivation and global management.
So they don't just sit on a cloud playing a harp for a millennium.
Exactly. Even paradise requires administration. During this 300-year phase, they actively engage in the maintenance of the utopia. They manage the ecosystems, ensure the balance of the terrarium is held, and prepare themselves spiritually for whatever transition comes after their 1,000th year.
So this management phase keeps them intellectually engaged, warding off that potential boredom you mentioned.
Right. And crucially, during this time, they are fully aware of Earth. They observe the people living here struggling and fighting.
The text notes that this realm is a world of truth, goodness, beauty, and elevated humanity, and it's open to absolutely anyone from Earth who successfully completes that grueling spiritual cultivation to perfect their human nature.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean for us? The 1,000-year world isn't just an escapist fantasy meant to make us feel better about dying.
No, not at all.
It acts as an incredibly sharp mirror held up to our own reality. It argues that our anxieties, our heavy concrete architecture, our massive economic structures, and our very definition of right and wrong are almost entirely dictated by the harshness of our environment.
Exactly.
We build deadbolted fortresses, we hoard bank accounts, and we jealously guard our romantic partners because Earth is fundamentally dangerous.
It is.
The text suggests that if you take the danger away, you fundamentally change what it means to be human.
Which leaves us with a final, rather provocative thought to consider.
Oh, let's hear it.
The author insists that this utopian world is the ultimate destination for Earthlings who have perfected their nature. But consider the terrarium analogy one last time.
Okay.
If you take an Earthling, a creature forged in the fires of scarcity, storms, and survival, and place them in a realm with perfectly controlled temperatures, endless food, and no predators, is their humanity actually perfected?
Or are they simply untested?
Exactly. If you remove absolutely all the external triggers for human conflict, if you take away the fear of disease, the threat of winter, and the desperation of hunger, does virtue actually exist? Or is peace simply the default state of having absolutely nothing left to fight over?